Hello and welcome back to another episode of Video Game Easter Eggs, the series where we take a look at some of the latest and not so latest Easter eggs in video games, with the only rule being they cannot have been featured on my channel before. In today's episode, we're no strangers to love in Sea of Thieves, we encounter some unusual patience in Stranger Things 3, and we get our hands on some actual Easter eggs in Viscera Clean Up Detail. As always, if you think you know of an Easter egg that I'm yet to cover, then the best places to let me know are in the comment section or on my social media accounts, the links to which are in the description. Oh, and one more thing, yesterday my brand new merch launched. It's a pretty big deal for me, as I never thought that I'd be in a position to have my own merch, but here we are. Head to captainexcellent.com, the link is in the description, to check out what I've come up with, and most importantly, let me know what you think. Anyway, without further delay, let's get started. So first up is Sea of Thieves, with one of my favourite Easter eggs in a very, very long time. Sea of Thieves originally launched in 2018 to a pretty mixed reception from both critics and players, but it has received a steady flow of updates since that seems to have kept players coming back for more. Now, with Sea of Thieves being a Rare developed game, it should surprise absolutely none of you that it has a great sense of humour, as well as an appreciation of timeless memes. On a remote island, you can find a journal titled One Last Shanty. Please, allow me to read it to you. We're no strangers to this cove. You know the pirate code, and so do I. A pile of treasure is what I'm thinking of. You wouldn't get this from any other pirate. Never gonna brig you up, never gonna let you drown. Never gonna sail around and maroon you. Never gonna steal your eye, never gonna not say I. Never gonna sell your booty for a doubloon. So that was an obvious parody of the timeless Rick Astley song Never Gonna Give You Up that was famously used in the rickroll meme. Next up is Outriders, which, if I've timed this video correctly, should have been released today. Outriders is a third-person shooter slash RPG developed by People Can Fly, the guys behind the excellent Bulletstorm and not as excellent but still good Gears of War Judgment. Unusually, Outriders actually had a demo that released in February, which attracted over 2 million players, which is pretty impressive numbers for a demo. As I said, by the time you're watching this video, Outriders will be out, so time will tell if the game can live up to the promise. Anyway, the Easter egg I found whilst playing the Outriders demo can be found at the first base camp that you set up. If you approach the guy at the weapons training area, you can hear this.
4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. That should do it.
So those seemingly random numbers are not random at all. The numbers 4, 8, 15, 16, 23 and 42 are the same numbers seen in the TV series Lost. I'm sure that now the full game is released, there'll be plenty more Easter eggs to find, so I'll be sure to keep my eyes peeled. So I was pretty late to the Stranger Things hype train. I barely have time to play the games I want, so spending my time watching a TV show is pretty rare for me. But having made my way through all 3 seasons on Netflix, I'm definitely happy that I did. Now, back in the day, if a TV show or movie was popular, it would get a video game adaptation. That's just how it worked. That trend seems to have slowed a little over the years, but apparently Stranger Things was popular enough to warrant a video game. Stranger Things 3, the video game, follows the events of the show's 3rd season. It's a pretty basic top-down RPG that fans of the show will probably enjoy, but it may feel a little basic to everyone else. The Easter eggs of interest in Stranger Things 3 can be found in Chapter 5. As you make your way through the hospital, you can inspect patient charts that will reference famous movie characters. First up is a patient called F. Kruger who is suffering from insomnia and severe nightmares. This is of course a reference to the star of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Freddy Krueger, who would kill his victims in their sleep. The next patient of interest is M. McFly, who has been diagnosed with false memories and delusions and has been referred to Dr. Brown. This is of course a reference to Marty McFly and Doc Brown from the Back to the Future series. Next up is R. Balboa, who is suffering with head trauma and is also suffering from slurred speech. This is a nod to Rocky Balboa from the Rocky franchise and Sylvester Stallone's slurred speech in the movie. There were a couple of other charts that I found, but I couldn't work out if they were references or not. The first was P. Herman, who suffered fractures after a bicycle crash, and the other is R. Neary, who is severely sunburned and requires mashed potato with his dinner. As I said, I'm not sure who these two are, but if you have any ideas, then please let me know. So next up is a game that, despite having had one of the most disastrous launches in video game history, at least had the decency to give us some pretty good Easter eggs. I mean, at this point we've already covered well over 50 Easter eggs in Cyberpunk, and it seems there's still more to find. First up is a reference to one of my favourite films of all time. At this location on the map, you can find this. So this setup is a reference to the Martin Scorsese film, The Departed. During the movie, Billy Costigan, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, goes undercover in a Boston gang. Well, to cut a long story short, it turns out that there's a rat inside of the Boston Police Department, who sells out the department's captain, who is subsequently thrown off a roof, as mentioned in Cyberpunk. The other person named in the Cyberpunk note is Martin Dignam, who was also a character in the movie, played by Mark Wahlberg. Now, the next Cyberpunk 2077 Easter egg is a bit of a strange one. At this location on the map, you can find this.
For your own safety, please maintain silence.
So I'm not entirely sure what I've walked in on here, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure I want to know either. Let's just leave them to it. Speaking of games that have blessed us with tons of Easter eggs, let's take another look at the extremely underrated Hunt Showdown. Hunt Showdown is one of the most atmospheric multiplayer games I've ever played, and if for some reason you haven't managed to check it out yet, then I highly suggest you do. Now, in previous episodes of this series, we found a couple of references to the Back to the Future films, most notably a DeLorean hidden away in a barn. Well, on the Lawson Delta map, you can find this. So this chalkboard is actually a reference to this scene from Back to the Future 2, where Doc explains to Marty the concept of time travel. The next Hunt Showdown Easter egg is the first of two duck-related Easter eggs in today's video. First up, on the Stillwater Bayou map, you can find this. So I think it's best that we respect the duck's wishes and move on. The next duck Easter egg is also found on the Bayou map, but is somehow even stranger than the ducks wanting a bit of peace and quiet. So this duck with the legs and arms of a mannequin seems to be the result of some sort of freakish Frankenstein-like experiment. I tried looking around for a way to get into the barn to get a closer look at this monstrosity, but I had no luck. So the final game for today's video is Viscera Clean Up Detail. In the last episode of this series, we discovered references to classic sci-fi movies like Demolition Man and Robocop. But the Easter eggs I'm sharing today are actual Easter eggs. First up, on the Overgrowth map, you can find this. And finally, on the Hydroponic Hell map, you can find this. Now, there are actually 3 of these hidden eggs found in Viscera, but I already covered one of them before, all the way back in episode 28 of this series. I'm pretty certain there's a lot more to find in Viscera, so if you know of anything that I haven't covered, then please let me know. So that's it. As mentioned, if you know of any Easter eggs that I'm yet to cover, then the best places to let me know are in the comment section or on my social media accounts, the links to which are in the description. Remember, if you are a fan of Easter eggs, secrets and tiny details in games, then perhaps consider subscribing, as that's what this channel is all about. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.